The final stage of the ADDIE model is E for evaluation, and I'd like to talk a bit about how I evaluate my students' use of the Wiki. First and foremost, how do I know that my Wiki site, my PBworks site, is helping my students reach the objectives that I have for them? The only way that I can explain the success that I've seen is by talking you through the stages of my Google Earth projects over the last 3 years. The first year that I tried to have my students create content in Google Earth, it really didn't go very well. A lot of what I was trying to have them do was a bit over their head, and even though they did okay, the final products just weren't that good. And mostly what I had to base my judgments on about their work and their success were only the final products. At that time, the students had to base their work on templates that I made for them that were PDFs that showed all the HTML that they had to use, and they had to type it out. I had them do it in Word documents, and then when they were done, copy and paste it over into the place marks that they had created in Google Earth. This worked okay, but it was really hard for them, and with them having to type out all the HTML, it made for a lot of errors that I had to go back and fix. The following year, I created the templates in PBworks, and I had the students just change what I had created. But it was still HTML text, and they had to see the parts that they were supposed to change. So I had PDF files showing them which parts they needed to change. So there was less for them to type, but they still struggled with which part do I change and which part do I leave alone. Finally, in the third year of doing those projects, I changed the templates. Actually, it was partway through the second year when I saw the problems that the kids were having. I changed the templates so that the pieces of text that the students had to change would be larger, bolder, and in color. And also I used different colors for different parts so that I could refer to things by which color they were when I wanted to bring the students' attention to just one particular piece that I might be referring to. Their projects certainly got better year after year, and after seeing my 6th graders, who became 7th graders and are now 8th graders, finish their projects ahead of schedule in 8th grade, I knew that they had gotten more comfortable with using the Wiki, they had gotten more comfortable with using Google Earth and creating place marks for it, and of course they had gotten more mature and could handle more because they were older, more experienced students, so it wasn't all about the tools. But there's another way that I can tell that my students are getting better at collaboration, and I really do think the Wiki plays a huge part in that. I have to share with you an evaluation tool that I use with all group collaborative projects where the students evaluate themselves and the other members of their teams to share how the collaborative process went. And I do have to say that over the years of using PBworks, I've noticed that these have improved for the most part across the board. This is a tool that I have my students use to evaluate themselves and their peers on a number of factors that influence the success of the group. Each student begins by evaluating him or herself, and you can see that they evaluate the others on the same criteria. There is a section of the worksheet for each member of the group. As you can see, the students evaluate themselves and their group members on how well they communicated with the rest of the group, whether they took the project seriously and stayed focused, whether they located and shared images and information, whether they participated in making changes to the place marks, both in the Wiki and in Google Earth, and whether they displayed a positive and encouraging attitude. I use a different scoring sheet when I grade the final project. All members of the group get the same grade on the final product, but each member gets a grade for the process that reflects his or her own input and success in meeting those specific goals that I mentioned. Another thing that really helped me to know that this tool was helping my students when they needed to work collaboratively in groups is when my middle school principal came to me and said, "This is really working. We want to do something different for our Ocean Week Habitat Parade." Well, we didn't really want to do something different, but we wanted to involve the students that had already been docents the previous year when they were 7th graders in helping to coach the current year's 7th graders and have them be better at the job that they were doing. We chose to use the Wiki because it was already there, the kids already had accounts, and all I needed to do was set up a new folder, add all of my 7th and 8th graders to it, add some pages, and have them work there. Using this tool enabled us to have accountability for each student. We could go in, show the students the page history, show them the revisions they had made, and show them the revisions that other members of their teams had made, so we could show them whether or not they were doing enough of their part. That way, we had a record of what was being discussed, we could monitor how things were going, and we didn't find out right at the end when the kids needed to present for our Ocean Week Habitat Parade whether they were prepared or not. Also, by taking advantage of the 8th graders' experience of having presented for the same Habitat Parade the previous year when they were 7th graders, and enabling them to serve as consultants to the 7th graders, we were able to help the students avoid some of the things that hadn't worked for previous students that had tried to do these same things. So it ended up being a real confidence booster for the 8th graders, and it made them feel good, but also it helped us avoid some of the problems we would see year after year, making it look like we hadn't learned from our mistakes. Without using the PBworks Wiki for this, I don't think we could have had that level of success so soon. I hope you've enjoyed this series of blog post videos in which I've gone through the process that I used for developing this project, or this series of projects for which I've been using PBworks. I promise you, I'm not a salesperson for PBworks. Okay, I do get a little something out of it, but they have no idea that I'm doing this. Really, I stand by the product because I use it and I believe in it, and I know that what I've been able to do with it and what my students have used it for has really helped them in their educational process. So if you have any questions about what I've shared today, or specific questions about PBworks or how to get things working or how I set things up, please feel free to leave comments on the blog and I will answer them as soon as I see them. Thanks.